Hey guys, and welcome back to your one room schoolhouse. If you are new here, my name is Mary Barfield and I'm a homeschooling mama to a first grader and a third grader this year. And today's video is going to be a little bit of a chatty one, talking about hindsight and what I would have done differently and any advice I would give to those who are starting out their homeschooling journey with little ones. And this video is actually spurred by one of you guys reaching out to me in my email asking for just my insight and advice into how I would have done things differently at the preschool, pre-K level. And I actually thought it was a really great question, and I thought it would be a really good video to create and kind of tell you guys what I would do differently if I could start it all back over again. Now, again, this is specifically with the very young years. And before I talk about what advice I gave that individual, I think it's important to explain like my philosophy when it comes to homeschooling. So if you've been following me for any amount of time, you guys know that I am follow more a Charlotte Mason pedagogy or philosophy when it comes to our homeschooling. However, with that being said, we are by far not a purist at it by any means. And actually, as much as there's a lot of things that I love about Charlotte Mason, there are things that I recognize that work differently in everybody's individual homeschools as well as with your individual child. Because as Charlotte Mason says, our children are born persons. So we have to meet our children where they are. And if that means that some of the Charlotte Mason philosophy doesn't work for them, that means that we have to find what does. So keeping in mind that's kind of my philosophy when it comes to homeschooling, I think that's important because the way I approach schooling might be different than yours. So thinking back to how I did things with my youngest daughter, and I think that's the best way to kind of go about this conversation is talking about what I did and what I'm glad I did and what I wish I hadn't done, if that makes sense. Because my youngest daughter, I have homeschooled from the beginning. My oldest daughter actually went to a charter school for her kindergarten level, so she has had some experience with traditional schooling, whereas my youngest daughter has never set foot in a traditional school before. That's because I started homeschooling my oldest in her first grade year, so she was 6, and then I started homeschooling my youngest when she was 4, or what we would consider here in North Carolina a pre-K year. So with my youngest, what I am glad I did was that I am glad that I did some formal math and language arts phonics with her. However, I want to talk about the approach that I took with both of those subjects. Specifically with math, we took a more gentle, hands-on and conceptual approach from the very beginning. We started off, and I don't have these books anymore because we have obviously moved past them, so I will leave pictures of them up here and I'll link anything down below that I can for you guys if you want to go check those out. But we started off with Kate Snow's Preschool Math at Home. I had no idea who Kate Snow was. I had no idea that she actually was the creator of the Math with Confidence math program. Like, I just found this book, I had done some research, and I was like, I really like this approach to kind of starting to create number sense at a very young age, but in a very gentle and fun and playful way. So we did Kate Snow's Preschool Math at Home with her. Now, my youngest daughter is a very young daughter. If you've been on my channel, you know this. She's young for her age. Her birthday is August 24th. So she is literally days away from the cutoff. And, you know, if she had been born on her actual due date, she would be in kindergarten this year, not first grade. So for her, I really wanted to take it easy with her. She's a younger girl for her age. And so I just want to make sure that we weren't overdoing it. But I also saw the value in starting to develop those skills early. So she flew through Kate Snow's Preschool Math at Home. I mean, she really did. She flew through it so quickly. She was enjoying it. We were having fun. It was very gentle. I wasn't quite ready to put her into a kindergarten math yet, but looking back on it, could she have done it? Yeah, probably. But that was me and my own insecurities and concerns about pushing my kid too fast, too far. However, I am glad that we took the approach we did, which I found Dimensions, Singapore Dimensions pre-K, or PK is what they call it, so it's for pre-K. They have a book A and a book B, so the first half of school, the pre-K year, and the second half of pre-K year. So we went ahead and did that with her. She did really well with it, and that is it is a Singapore focused math program. It is very much worksheet based, not a lot of hands-on manipulatives from what I remember from that level, but it's very more regimented, a more rigorous program. But it was great at the pre-K level, right? It's not that rigorous at pre-K, no matter what level, what company you're using. But she flew through that one as well. And we were still only halfway through her pre-K year at this point, I think about. And so I finally said, okay, I'm going to give in. Let's do Math with Confidence level K, because by that time I found out that Kate Snow had created Math with Confidence. Now I connected the dots that she actually had a full program, because I had only ever heard about the Facts That Stick programs, like the addition Facts That Stick, all those that Kate Snow has created. So I thought that she just created supplements. I didn't think she created a full program, but she had. So I was like, that's great. We love the preschool math at home. Let's go with the level K. And I started kindergarten in her preschool year. And she did great with that. She had a really good, strong number sense, and that just really drilled it in further. And we continued with level K. She finished that 2 months into her kindergarten year, and I just kept moving her on to first grade Math with Confidence, and then so on and so forth. So she's always been ahead in math. I say that's partially because we started her off with a really strong number sense foundation with the preschool math at home when she was 4. But I think also part of that is it's just naturally what she is inclined towards, how her brain works, and she is just my math girl, you know? But I am glad that I went ahead and fostered that, because a lot of people are like, well, Charlotte Mason... My dog, he's crying. Hold on, let me let him out of the office. Sorry, my dog saw the girls running back and forth because I have glass doors on my office doors. And so he was like, I want to go play with my sisters. So I had to let him out. But with her, I think, you know, I'm glad that we did what we did when we did, because it was supporting her, even though it goes against what Charlotte Mason would recommend, right? And this is again where I diverge a little bit from the Charlotte Mason pedagogy. I'm glad we did it in a gentle way to start with, but it was at the right time for her to support her and challenge her and progress her. I don't think there's anything wrong with challenging our kids and meeting them where they are, even if that is outside one way or the other of the bounds of the philosophy that we've decided to follow for our homeschool. So I have no regrets about starting math with her so soon. I actually wish I had done that with my oldest daughter, but alas, I was planning on having her do traditional schooling and going down that path, so I didn't even think about it. And you know, it's just one of those regrets that you'll always have, but I can't do anything to change the past. I can only change the future. So let's talk about language arts. So language arts, I think we approached beautifully. I have no regrets about our math, and I have no regrets about our language arts either. So with language arts, I went ahead starting when she was 4. So in her pre-K year, we did the Blossom and Root Early Years Volume 2 level, and that was perfect. So fun, had a lot of enrichment that we could bring in and pick and choose what we wanted to from it. It was low stress, super easy, didn't even feel like school. But what it did include from a phonics perspective was a gentle 1 letter and sound a week program. So for the first 26 weeks, you are just learning the letters and the sounds of the alphabet through a lot of Charlotte Mason and Waldorf inspired activities. So it's not very, you're not sitting there with a workbook and just heads down and just writing, because obviously at that point their writing dexterity is not there yet, but you're drawing things in sand, you're erasing things off of boards, you're using letter tiles with magnets and things like that. It was really perfect, y'all. And then after the 26th week, you kind of start going into a little bit of putting letters together to make words, but it truly was the perfect level for her at 4 years of age in her pre-K year. Then when kindergarten came around, that's when I got serious about, okay, we are going to start learning phonics. So this, I think, is something I cannot give advice to anybody on, because I think phonics is a very personal journey for each child. Their reading ability is very personally attuned to their skills and the way their brain is developing. So I can say, yeah, in kindergarten, that was the perfect time for us to work on formalized phonics, but for another child, it might not be till first grade. Or another child, they should be maybe doing that when they're 4. You know, every child is different, and I cannot give advice on this to any one person. But again, kind of with math, I think this is where you just need to meet your child where they are. But I also don't think it is bad to do that sooner than some pedagogies recommend, in my opinion. You know what I mean? So for Charlotte Mason, she does not recommend formal lessons, phonics or anything like that, until the child's 6. My child was brand new, 5 years old, and we were hitting phonics immediately. Now I went through 2 different programs for phonics before I fell into one that worked for her. I think part of it was mentally she wasn't quite ready to hit the rote memorization of phonics quite yet with the programs I was looking at. But also part of it was they just weren't speaking to her brain the way that she's a very visual person. I am really learning lately, especially, that she is a visual learner. So if it's black and white and boring, it just doesn't click with her brain. So what did work for her? Wonderfully enough, my next door neighbor, I was kind of spiraling a little bit one day, and she was like, hey, I've got some readers that are kindergarten level from The Good, the Beautiful. Do you want to try them out? I was like, it might give her some sense of independence and confidence in reading. You know, she's got her own readers like her sister does. I was like, perfect. That'd be great if I could borrow those. On top of that, she's like, hey, I just wanted to include the Booster A cards, which is their phonics program that goes along with their course book for language arts for The Good and the Beautiful. She said, I thought it would be good for you to maybe check it out. Maybe you could do some of that with her. I didn't know if it'd be helpful or not. My neighbor is literally the best person in the world, because my daughter, started going through, she's like, let's try the phonics, I want to try it. She liked the way it looked, and then she was reading the books, and I'm telling you, overnight her attitude and her abilities took a 180, and she was reading with fluency. She wasn't going cat, cat. She was saying the cat sat on the rat. Like, she was doing the fluency thing. So this is the thing I would say with phonics, is that you don't really know what kind of learner your child is. In the first couple of years, you're testing things out, trying to get a sense of that, right? Even though you're their mother, it's really like, I didn't know my kid's style until first, second grade, really, after trying some things out. So I think with phonics, sometimes trying out different programs is necessary. It was for us. It took us 3 tries. On the third try was a charm, you know. We first tried Ordinary Parents Guide to Teaching Reading. I think that's a fabulous program. Just didn't work for her brain. The other one was Elemental Phonics, which I think is also a fantastic program. Again, just didn't work for her. That one worked for my oldest daughter, actually. That was great for her. And then finally we landed on the Good and the Beautiful Phonics program, and that was the hit. That was the one that worked for her, and she is just taken off now with that. She's reading at a second, almost third grade level, and she's in first grade. So those were the ones that worked for us. But again, it comes back to, what should you do for your own child, right? Is it too soon to introduce phonics at 5 years of age or 6 years of age, or is it 4? You know, what do you do? What should you do? I think it's always good to try it out, you know, maybe try, this is what I recommend to most people who are just getting started. If I could do it all over again, I would start with a letter a week program at 4 years of age. Even 3, depending on your child. If they're like the third kid, you know how the third and second kid are. The first kid is like the one that leads the way. The other ones are trailing behind, but they're normally ahead because they're following whatever the oldest sister is doing, or older brother. So if you have a kid that is not the first kid, it's like the kid underneath. I would even, if you wanted to, try at 3, you know, don't be afraid. If it's like, whoa, that's too much, pull back immediately and stop exactly what you're doing. You know, it doesn't hurt to dip your toes in to try and see, because you don't know until you try it out if your kid is ready to move forward with that kind of learning. And then if they are, I would say do the gentle program, run through the letter a week, sound a week program, and then move into phonics if your child is ready to do that. If they're not, wait. Because a lot of research shows that all kids kind of get to a certain point, regardless, taking out any chance of like any learning disabilities or anything like that, right? Your standard normal child without any fear of any kind of learning disabilities going on, they'll all catch up to their reading abilities around the age of 11, no matter what's going on, right? So I think at the end of the day, I think it's just, you have to meet your child where they are, but don't get stressed if they're not reading chapter books by 4 years of age, right? Like, I know a few friends that actually have kids like that, and I'm just like, that's wild to me. But also it's tough, you know, as cool as that is that your kid's reading ahead, it also, there's challenges that come with it, because how do you find books that are content appropriate that are at your kid's reading level, right? There are challenges that come with those kids that are ahead too. So again, my name of the game with math and language arts is meeting your child where they are in their reading and math levels. Now, beyond math and language arts, this is where I wish I had done things differently. So for me personally, I am so grateful I did things the way that I did with math and language arts. I think it worked out perfectly, right? No regrets. I have regrets outside of math and language arts. So this is where my Charlotte Mason side comes in a little bit, and I wish I had just let my child play and be a kid and learn through play. Not to say that we didn't do any playing and learning through play, you know, in her younger years, but I feel like my expectations of her were much higher. Now, I think if she had been the first child, I would not have had the same expectations of her, but because she has a sister that is literally only 2 years and a few weeks older than her, I kind of looped her in my brain into the same realm as her older sister. And I was like, she should be able to do what, you know, older sissy's doing, right? No, 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 Mary, absolutely not. But again, I cannot go back and change the past. However, I did start to have this epiphany halfway through kindergarten that I was expecting things from my youngest daughter at the same level as my oldest, and that was not fair to her. So I pulled back. I started to pull back with her. And what I mean by that is that I was having Charlotte, my youngest daughter, tag along with Emery in her science, in her geography, in her, all the, what I would call the content or elective subjects, anything outside of math and language arts. I was expecting Charlie to do the exact same things that her older sister was doing, and at the same level, and that was highly unrealistic and not fair, to be honest. So I feel like I stole a little bit of her childhood from her in that respect. I mean, I wasn't that bad. I'm being dramatic probably a little bit, but who knows? Maybe in therapy sessions 15 years from now, this will come up in her therapy session saying about how mommy made her do science when she was in pre-K. Hopefully not. Because I did. I recognized halfway through kindergarten, I was like, Mary, she is her own person. You have to go at her speed. And that includes maybe she doesn't sit with us for science. Maybe she doesn't do science with us. Maybe she's excused. You know what I mean? So that is where I do have some regrets, is that I forced her to sit in with these things when she shouldn't have had to. Do you know what I mean? I feel like the younger years are for observation, exploring, learning through play. I think when you get to first grade is where you start requiring. So this year is where I started requiring her at an age appropriate level to do science, to do history, to be included in our poetry readings and all that stuff, having to do oral narrations, right? We've seen a lot of fruit come from oral and written narrations along with daily copy work. So now she has copy work every day. You know, but again, I wish I had waited till she was 6 / her first grade year to start requiring those things. And I was having her do stuff a little sooner than I should have. That, I will admit that. But beyond that, I feel like it's always a learning journey for the parent, us as the homeschool parents, especially when it's our first kid in our first couple of years of homeschooling, right? We're just trying to figure it out. It takes years, I'm realizing, to really get settled and into your homeschool and understand your children's learning styles and finding the right curriculums out there, because there's so much goodness out there, but it's which one's good for you? You know, that's what the real challenge is trying to figure out. So if you are a parent who is facing down your first year of homeschool and you're sitting here going, what do I do with my kid? You know, unsure whether you have a 4 or 5 or 6 year old, hopefully this video kind of gives you some comfort that even no matter what you choose to do, right, it will all kind of work out in the end. But I think when I've talked to other veteran homeschoolers, I do not consider myself veteran yet. This is my 3rd year of homeschooling. Maybe when I hit like 5 or 6 years, I'll consider myself a veteran. Then I think you've really put the work in, maybe. But you know, when I've talked to other veteran homeschoolers, they've kind of had similar experiences, right? The first kid was like the gung-ho kid. The second kid, you were kind of like, okay, you're going to follow along with him. And then you kind of start to pull back and you're like, wait, hold on. Nope, you're your own person. You need to do, you know, it at your own pace. It's just part of the learning curve that is being homeschooling, you know, being a homeschool mom. So, I don't know if that's helpful. I hope it was. I hope it brought some comfort, or even just commiserating and like just trying to figure this thing called homeschooling out, you know? If you have any questions about anything I mentioned in this video, leave them down in the comments. If you are new to my channel and you want to see more future homeschooling videos, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, y'all.